You know that feeling? Like there's just that one public figure, the kind where nobody's just kind of about it.
Totally. It's always extreme.
Yeah. It's either like, I ride or die for them, or it's, ugh, I would seriously walk barefoot through Legos to avoid hearing their name again. It gets intense, right? Like super personal.
It absolutely does. That kind of gut reaction. It feels so personal, even though, logically it's someone you've never actually met, but they get woven into your own story somehow.
Exactly. And I mean, when you think about those figures in sports,
Yeah.
the ones who just ignite that level of like passion and frustration, something that's both at once.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have to land on Jerry Jones, right? And the Dallas Cowboys. For decades now, I swear, he's been the ultimate lightning rod. Always. Always in the thick of it.
Always. The hype, the arguments, the endless frustration for some fans. Yeah, it's unique. And it always seems to boil down to that one big question, doesn't it?
Yeah, the paradox. Is he the visionary genius?
Yeah.
The guy who basically rescued the Cowboys from irrelevance and built this insane global sports empire, the most valuable one on earth?
Is he the obstacle? The main reason America's team, with all that money and flash, hasn't hoisted another Lombardi trophy in, forever?
Yeah.
It's the question. And people are dug in deep on both sides.
Oh, sure. And honestly, that's what really pulled us into this deep dive. We stumbled onto this perspective from someone whose work we've looked at before, and it really made us stop and rethink things.
Yeah, it came from a voice you wouldn't typically expect in this kind of sports debate.
Right. We're talking about Daniel Bates.
Yep.
You might know him as a DLB, or Dante East. He's not your usual sports guy, not an ex-player breaking down game film, definitely not some talking head analyst rehashing old takes.
No, he operates on a completely different wavelength, and that's what makes his view so interesting, I think.
Totally. His background is just wild. Everything from music and film, right, under DLB and Dante East, to high-level branding strategy with Loyalty Dreams creatives, and then business insights from View Event Capital.
He just sees complex systems differently, how culture works, how influence is built, how you create real sustainable value. It's not just about one thing, it's how all the pieces connect.
Yeah, he gets how to build these ecosystems. And you see it in his own stuff, that whole V2VBYDP umbrella, Visions to Ventures by D-Bates. It's not just random companies, it's Orison Holdings doing strategy, Viva Ven handling capital, Loyalty Dreams on branding, 11SIX Music doing sound, Neon Vision Studios making films.
It all feeds into each other. Like a Neon Vision film uses an 11SIX artist, Loyalty Dreams does the branding, Orison oversees it. It's synergistic. He builds things that last, things that amplify each other.
So when someone with that kind of brain, who's proven they can build these interconnected empires, turns that focus onto Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, well, it just hits different,
It really does. It kind of forces you to check your own assumptions.
And his take on Jerry Jones, it's not slightly different. It's pretty shocking compared to what you usually hear. He doesn't just kind of disagree with the critics. He flat out says Jerry Jones is not the problem.
Yeah, he actually sees Jones as the essential piece, the architect, the reason they even can win in the future, not the reason they haven't.
Which is wild, right? Given the whole Super Bowl drought thing that hangs over everything.
Yeah.
But hold on, before we even get into the why behind that view, there's something else, something kind of foundational about where Bates is coming from. And honestly, when we first heard it, it just stopped us cold.
Oh, yeah. This part it's incredibly direct and kind of disarming. He told us straight up, quote, Jerry Jones buying the Dallas Cowboys saved my life. Yeah.
Let that sink in. Save my life.
Yeah.
That's not like, oh, I really like the 90s teams. That's something else entirely.
It's profound gratitude, deeply personal.
And he owns the bias that comes with it, right? He says he's forever grateful and forever loyal to Mr. Jones. He talks about real, tangible ways Jones's ownership positively impacted his life, his family's life, not just good seats or enjoying the games, life-altering stuff.
Yeah, real impact. So suddenly it's not just about stats or salary caps. It's about this deep human connection, this gratitude that completely shapes how he sees Jerry Jones. And Bates is clear. He's never worked for Jerry or the Cowboys. No insider info there. But his view comes from years of watching, observing the culture around the team, and what he calls first-hand encounters. Not necessarily about football strategy, but about interactions, things he saw that built this intense loyalty and appreciation for Jones as a person.
It makes you realize behind the big headlines and the endless debates, there are these human stories. And Bates is basically asking you, to consider that human impact, that care he sees Jones showing people as part of the whole picture. It's a perspective you just don't hear in the mainstream sports talk.
Absolutely. So with that really intense personal foundation laid out, let's get into how Bates sees Jerry Jones, the public figure, the business guy. Because even Jones's biggest haters, Bates argues, they have to admit he revolutionized the business side of the NFL.
He's totally unshakable on this point.
Hmm.
Bates basically says Jones didn't just buy a team, he rewrote the entire playbook for how an NFL franchise makes money, builds a brand, connects with fans globally. He didn't just play the game, he changed the rules.
And he points to concrete stuff you just can't argue with, like the obvious one, AT&T Stadium, Jerry World.
Right, can't miss it.
Bates calls it more than a stadium, like a global icon for sports venues. Jones just got the idea of spectacle way before most others did. He saw the game as just one part of this huge entertainment experience.
It wasn't just about seats and turf, it was immersive. The suites, the art, the sheer scale of it, maximizing everything, fan experience, revenue, brand presence. It was a declaration, wasn't it? We're not just a team, we're a global entertainment brand.
Exactly, a monument to that vision. And then he doubled down with the Star in Frisco, that whole 91-acre campus. It's wild.
Headquarters, training, sure, but also restaurants, shops, a hotel, even medical facilities. It's a year-round thing, a full 360-degree Cowboys experience, like Bates calls it.
He says every NFL team envies it now. It set a totally new standard for what a modern sports organization even looks like, way beyond just the field.
Okay, so the buildings are iconic, but Bates says Jones's impact goes way deeper, right, into the actual money side of the league.
Oh, yeah. Fundamentally, he credits Jones with this, aggressive, almost wildcatter vision for NFL economics. Jones saw the power of TV deals early, got those huge Fox and NBC contracts in the 90s, but the real game changer was him going after individual team sponsorships.
Right, outside the league's shared pot of money.
Exactly. Deals with Nike, Pepsi, Amex, AT&T worth, over $60 million back then. That was unheard of. It directly challenged the whole revenue-sharing thing the league had going.
He wasn't afraid to rock the boat, was he? Even if it meant fighting the league itself.
Not at all. He got into massive lawsuits with the NFL. Jones sued them for, $700 million? But those fights, messy as they were, ended up opening the door for teams to have way more control over their own marketing and money-making. It changed everything financially for every team. Bates also says he influenced the salary cap structure, the revenue-sharing models we have today.
So he didn't just make the Cowboys rich. He kind of created the blueprint for the modern NFL business model.
That's Bates's core point on the business side, which leads to his claim that every owner in the NFL wants to be Jerry Jones, even if they complain about him sometimes.
You can see why. The financial success is just staggering. What are the Cowboys valued at now? Like over $10 billion. Some estimates for 2025 are pushing $15 billion.
Yeah, it's insane. Most valuable sports team globally, consistently #1 in the NFL for years. Their ticket revenue alone, thanks to Jerry World's capacity and those luxury suites, is unrivaled. We're talking like $1.2 billion in revenue in 2023, with $500 million in operating income. The brand value itself is nearly $3 billion. Just mind-blowing numbers.
And Bates connects this all back to Jones's background, right? The wildcatter thing.
Exactly. That oil and gas background. A wildcatter drills in risky, unproven places, takes huge financial leaps, hoping for a massive payoff. Bates sees that same spirit in how Jones approached owning the Cowboys. Big, bold, unconventional moves.
That makes sense. And you can see why someone like Bates, who builds his own complex ventures under V2VBYDB, would recognize and respect that kind of risk-taking, empire-building mindset.
For sure. He gets that drive. Bates argues Jones's business approach didn't just make the Cowboys wealthy, it forced the entire league to evolve. Other owners might have grumbled at first, but eventually they saw the money and followed his lead. The results just spoke for themselves.
Okay, so the case for Jerry Jones.
You see.
Business revolutionary. It's pretty much ironclad. You can't argue with the empire he's built off the field. It's staggering.
It really is.
But, and it's a huge but for so many people, right? For the fans, for the critics. Does any of that business genius actually matter if it doesn't translate into the only thing that counts in sports for most folks? Winning Super Bowls.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe $1 billion in Jerry's case. The ultimate paradox. And Bates frames it so starkly. Is Jerry the reason Dallas can't win a Super Bowl, or the only reason they can? And he lands firmly on the side of Jones being the architect, the enabler of future success.
Okay, so how does he counter that really common criticism, the one you hear constantly? Jerry only cares about the money, the brand, the value, not the rings.
Right. Bates tackles that directly. He argues, look, if Jones only cared about maximizing profit, he could just coast.
Right.
The Cowboys brand is massive. AT&T Stadium, the Star, they basically print money already. He wouldn't need the stress or the huge financial risks of constantly chasing a Super Bowl if profit was the only goal.
The brand is strong enough to be profitable even when they're just mediocre on the field.
Exactly, but Bates points to Jones's actual actions. He says Jones consistently spends massively, even recklessly, and he uses that word deliberately, to get elite players, huge free agent contracts, market-setting extensions. And he does make coaching changes when things aren't meeting that championship standard. Maybe not always as fast as fans want, like with Garrett, but compared to some lifers in other organizations, Jones has pulled the trigger when Super Bowl hopes fade.
So Bates is saying the proof is in the spending. Those big swings in free agency, always trying to grab that missing piece for a win-now push. That shows winning is the priority.
That's his argument, that constant urgency, the willingness to throw huge money around, the personnel shakeups year after year. Bates sees that as undeniable proof. You don't take those kinds of risks, he argues. You don't spend that kind of cash unless getting another ring is the primary, maybe the primary driver, louder than the he only cares about money talk.
Okay, but we absolutely have to go there. The biggest shadow hanging over everything. The split with Jimmy Johnson, early 90s, 2 Super Bowls then. Boom.
Ah, yes. The original sin. It's the criticism that just won't die, right? The one event many people genuinely believe knocked a potential dynasty off the rails and cursed them ever since.
And the story everyone knows is pretty simple. Jerry's ego got too big. Couldn't share the credit. Pushed out the coaching genius who actually built the team, and they've never been the same. Plus that infamous quote, right? 500 coaches could coach the Cowboys. Oof.
Yeah, that quote definitely didn't help things. But Bates, he doesn't just dismiss the Johnson stuff. He knows how huge it was. But he wants us to look at it with a wider lens. Consider the context, especially how the entire league changed right after that dynasty.
What does he mean by that? Like how the game itself changed?
Exactly. The NFL went through this massive transformation almost immediately. You had real free agency come in, the salary cap got implemented and kept changing, team building got way, way more complex. The league Jones and Johnson dominated, it basically disappeared overnight. So Bates is asking, was it just about Jerry versus Jimmy? Or was it also about adapting to a fundamentally different game, a much harder game to sustain dominance in? He suggests maybe we need to look at how Jones navigated that new landscape for the next 25, 30 years. Did his methods work in the modern NFL?
So it wasn't just finding a new coach. It was finding a way to win in a totally new environment. That's a really interesting layer.
Right. It's maybe unfair to judge everything based on that early 90s situation without factoring in the massive shifts since then. Did Jones adapt his approach effectively? That's a deeper question than just ego. And Bates also brings up the point others have made. Jimmy Johnson himself wasn't really known for sticking around in one place forever. He liked shorter stints, so maybe he would have moved on anyway, rift or no rift.
That definitely complicates the simple Jerry ruined it narrative. And this kind of leads to a really fascinating psychological question Bates hints at. Did losing Johnson, the guy credited with the on-field success, create this deep need in Jerry to prove he could do it? That he was the real mastermind?
That's the potential ripple effect Bates seems to explore. Did it lead to Jerry wanting to be the ultimate football guy, making the final call on players, maybe being hesitant to fully trust another strong coach or a traditional GM? Like this powerful, maybe even subconscious drive stemming from that split, wanting to show everyone he was the true architect all along.
Wow, that's heavy. A need to prove something born out of that painful breakup shaping decades of decisions.
It's a compelling idea, right? Suggests the Johnson thing wasn't just a business decision, but maybe a core emotional event that really shaped how Jones ran the football side for years after.
That kind of drive can be powerful, for sure. But it could also be a blind spot, maybe, getting in the way of the very thing you want most. It's, almost tragic if you think about it that way.
Another thing critics always hammer Jones on is his loyalty. But again, Bates flips the script. He sees it as a double-edged sword, but he really emphasizes the strength in it.
Okay, because the usual take is that his loyalty is a problem. Like he keeps people around too long, players, coaches out of sentimentality, even when they aren't getting the job done. Jason Garrett's long run as head coach is always the prime example people use. Years of, 8-8 or just missing the playoffs.
That's the standard criticism. Loyalty gets in the way of tough calls. But Bates argues the other side of that coin is incredibly powerful and unique. He says Jones's loyalty creates this real Cowboys brotherhood, like a genuine sense of family, trust, belonging that runs through the whole organization.
How so? Beyond just, like, being nice to players.
Bates says Jones truly takes care of his own way past the contract expiring. It's not just about how they're treated when they're playing, it's a lasting thing.
Like building relationships that last after football.
Exactly. Bates thinks this creates a culture you just don't find elsewhere. He points to examples. Jones sticking by Michael Irvin through all his legal issues, supporting Des Bryant when he was going through personal stuff, even giving him security in that big contract, quietly helping guys like Demetrius Underwood and Alonzo Spellman with mental health struggles, which, wow, especially back then.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And often stuff owners would run from.
For sure. Even giving Josh Brent a scouting job after that horrible car accident that killed his teammate, Jerry Brown Jr., most owners would have distanced themselves immediately. Jones leaned in.
You really don't see that kind of loyalty often, if ever, in pro sports. It's a different kind of leadership model.
So Bates believes this builds these incredibly strong, lasting bonds, a stronger alumni network than any other team. It makes players feel genuinely valued as people, not just assets. And he thinks that contributes massively to the overall strength of the Cowboys brand and culture, even without recent rings. It makes people want to be associated with the Cowboys for life.
Okay, but does Bates think Jones can balance that deep loyalty with the cold, hard decisions you have to make to win?
Yeah, he points back to the big spending on players, the coaching changes, as proof that Jones can make tough calls when he feels it's absolutely necessary to chase a championship. So it's not blind loyalty at all costs. Bates sees it as a defining trait that fosters an amazing culture, even if it sometimes leads to questionable decisions or criticism. He seems to feel the good outweighs the bad, or at least doesn't completely block necessary changes when things get serious.
Okay, so moving beyond the inside stuff, the business, the loyalty, the Jimmy Johnson fallout, Bates puts a ton of weight on something maybe less tangible but undeniably huge, the whole America's team thing. He says it's way more than just marketing.
Yeah, he calls the Cowboys a true cultural force, something that just moves the needle culturally in a way no other sports team, maybe anywhere, really does. Their importance goes way beyond just football fans, he argues. They're just baked into American culture, maybe even global culture now.
They generate headlines constantly, right?
Yeah.
Win, lose, off-season. Doesn't matter. Like Bates says, people either live for them with this crazy passion or they hate them more than they love their own teams. But yeah, you absolutely cannot ignore them.
You really can't. They're always part of the national conversation. That constant spotlight, that relevance, it's unparalleled in the NFL, maybe in all sports. They dominate airwaves, clicks, chatter. Even when their record isn't great, they matter.
And Bates gives Jerry Jones massive credit for creating that, right? Not just looking into it.
Oh, absolutely. He believes Jones deliberately cultivated the America's team vibe from day one. Jones himself embraced the spotlight, built his own larger-than-life persona. He just got spectacle and branding way ahead of the curve. He didn't just want a winning team, he wanted a global icon. He even trademarked America's team back in 2013, made it official.
He really is a master showman. It's part of his whole deal.
Totally. A genius at keeping the Cowboys front and center, using his own personality, the team's history, everything to fuel that constant buzz. Bates sees that ability to market, to brand, to make the team resonate culturally on that massive scale as a key part of Jones's genius. Maybe even more impactful in the long run than any single draft pick or trade. It's about building a story bigger than the game.
That seems to be the core of his argument there, and he uses that thought experiment to really drive it home, right? The parade idea.
Oh yeah, the multi-state parade. It's such a vivid picture. He says, imagine a Cowboys Super Bowl parade today. It wouldn't just be Dallas, nah. It'd have to stretch across multiple states, Texas, obviously, but also California, New York, Florida, maybe the Carolinas, Arizona, places where the Cowboys have these huge, passionate fan bases, generations deep.
You really do see Cowboys jerseys everywhere. It's kind of crazy.
Right. Bates argues no other team could realistically stage a parade that draws massive crowds across that many different states simultaneously. And that phenomenon, that insane cultural reach, that's Jerry's creation, Bates says. His foresight and branding, making the team mean something far beyond just Texas.
Okay, so the business revolution, the cultural impact, building this global brand, Bates makes a seriously compelling case for Jones's off-field legacy. It's hard to argue with the scale of it.
It really is. Bates also talks about the Cowboys as being like the pillar of the NFL's history, shaping the biggest rivalries, Steelers, Packers, Niners, the legendary games, the financial booms. He argues those teams, those rivalries, they aren't the same without Dallas as the counterpoint, the team everyone measured themselves against. They're central to the whole NFL story.
We still got to face it. The big lurking thing, the decades. Decades. Without a Super Bowl, it's always there.
It refuses to leave the room, man, absolutely. And Bates doesn't ignore it. He doesn't excuse it. But he makes another really bold claim here. He argues that despite the drought, Jerry Jones and his front office, and he gives a ton of credit here to Will McClay, the VP of player personnel since 2014 have actually consistently assembled Super Bowl caliber rosters in recent years.
Oh, hold on. Super Bowl caliber rosters, that's a big statement for a team that hasn't gotten close in so long. What's the evidence for that?
That's his main point on the football side. He points straight to the draft results, especially since McClay took over overseeing player personnel in 2014. Since then, the Cowboys have drafted 15 players who made at least one Pro Bowl. 15. That's the most in the entire NFL during that period.
Seriously, most in the league.
Yeah. He names the guys. Micah Parsons, obviously. Total game wrecker. 4 Pro Bowls already. CeeDee Lamb, 4 Pro Bowls. Zach Martin, 9-time Pro Bowler, future Hall of Famer. Trayvon Diggs before his injury. Plus Dak Prescott, 4 Pro Bowls at QB. And finding gems later, like Duron Bland setting records last year. Bates sees the Cowboys front office under Jones's ownership, but with McClay driving talent evaluation, as genuinely elite at finding talent.
Okay, so if Bates is right, if the talent, the raw materials, the Super Bowl caliber pieces have been there, then what is the missing piece? Why aren't they breaking through?
He really boils it down to needing the right quarterback and the right coach at the same time. He calls it the magic combo. He uses this analogy like an orchestra. You can have the best musicians, the best instruments, right, a roster full of talent. But to make truly transcendent music, you need both a world-class soloist, that's the QB, and an exceptional conductor, that's the coach. And they have to be perfectly in sync, elevating the whole performance.
So it's not just having stars. It's having that specific elite QB and that specific elite coach working together perfectly, making the right calls under pressure, especially deep in the playoffs. That perfect chemistry, hitting at the right time.
Exactly. Bates seems to think the coaching turnover since Jimmy, plus maybe some inconsistency or limitations at QB over the years, are the main reasons they haven't made those deep runs, even with the talent he sees on the roster. The parts are there, but that final critical combination of leadership and execution at the very highest level, that's been elusive. And he admits finding that perfect combo, it involves timing, maybe even just plain old luck sometimes.
Yeah, you can't discount luck in football. The right coach being available at the right time, a QB peaking just as the roster hits its stride, avoiding that one catastrophic injury. It's complicated. Even the best plans need things to break right.
For sure. And speaking of getting things right, this recent news, like right now in July 2025, really throws a spotlight on this tension, the whole Micah Parsons contract thing.
Oh, yeah. Jerry downplaying the pay Micah chants, saying they weren't as loud as the seedy ones last year because Micah wasn't holding out.
And then Stephen Jones chiming in saying Parsons has to want to be paid, basically telling him to take their offer. That got people fired up. Mike Florio called the Joneses a 1-2 punch it incompetence for lowballing him, saying Parsons should have held out.
Right. It feels like a direct clash with that Bates argument about Jones spending massively and being win now. How does this fit? Publicly squeezing maybe your best defensive player, arguably one of the best players in the league.
It's a really interesting real-time test case, isn't it? Does the win now at all costs mentality always extend to paying your own drafted superstars top dollar without a public fight? Or does the business side, the negotiation tactic, take over? And yeah, hearing the owner of the richest team kind of publicly diminish a player's leverage like that, it feels like a cheap shot, like you said, especially for a guy as crucial as Parsons. Creates real tension.
Definitely. So looking deeper into Bates's whole analysis, he seems to suggest the final step isn't just finding that magic coach QB combo. Maybe there needs to be a shift in like the overall approach too.
Yeah, he kind of hints at that. Maybe a slightly more adaptable, less rigid approach organizationally could help. That intense win-now focus, while admirable in its drive, could maybe sometimes lead to short-term thinking or make it harder to pivot when things inevitably go sideways in the NFL.
Makes sense. You need urgency, but maybe also a bit more long-term patience or flexibility sometimes.
Exactly. Bates seems to be advocating for a balance. Keep the drive, sure, Jones clearly has that.
Dude, yeah.
But maybe pair it with building a more sustainable system, a framework that keeps the team competitive year after year, not just pinning hopes on one big splash or one specific window. It's about the whole organizational health, not just individual stars. Cultivating an environment where talent consistently thrives over the long haul.
And Bates thinks Jones is capable of that kind of shift, that he's not just stuck in his ways.
Interestingly, yeah, he points to what he sees as Jones's increasing willingness to delegate more responsibility. He specifically mentions Stephen Jones being much more visible and involved in football ops now. And the trust Jones clearly puts in Will McClay, who everyone respects for his talent evaluation. Bates sees those as signs Jones can evolve.
Okay, so that leads to the absolute core question, doesn't it? The one Bates implies. Can Jerry Jones, the guy who's been the hands-on decision maker for decades,
The final say on everything.
can he truly
Mm-hmm.
let go, even just a bit? Can he genuinely empower people like McClay to run the football side without looking over their shoulder, without needing that final veto? Can he step back from being the primary football guy himself?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it? For the team, for his legacy, Bates sees signs it could happen, points to Stephen and Will. But he implicitly acknowledges, for someone whose whole identity is wrapped up in being in charge, letting go is incredibly hard. It cuts against his very nature, the thing that made him build the empire in the first place. It's a huge psychological hurdle.
For sure. But Bates seems to think if Jones can make that shift, that might be the final key, the thing that finally unlocks another Super Bowl.
So bringing it all back around, that Daniel Bates quote, "Jerry Jones saved my life." It really hits differently now, doesn't it? It's not just a soundbite. It's the lens through which he sees everything about Jerry Jones.
Yeah, it's deeply personal. It explains the gratitude, the loyalty. Bates is basically begging us, begging you listening, to look past the usual noise, the headlines, the controversies, the win-loss record.
All the stuff that fills sports radio.
Right. And consider the human side. The way Jones cares for people in the organization, the positive impacts nobody talks about. He says, quote, "There are so many others who feel the same way, who know firsthand what Jerry Jones has done for them." That's the part that never makes the headlines. That core belief in Jones's fundamental goodness shapes everything for Bates.
And it forces you to ask that bigger question. What is success in sports? Is it only championships? Or is it also building the world's most valuable team, a global brand, creating insane fan loyalty, a business empire? And, like Bates stresses, actually making a positive difference in people's lives. Bates clearly lands on that broader definition. The rings matter, but they aren't the only thing that matters in his view of Jones's success.
Which brings us right back to that core tension. Bates's positive, personal view versus the constant criticism. How will Jerry Jones be remembered? The savior who rescued the team, won early, revolutionized the league's business.
Or the guy whose need for control, whose approach in the modern era ultimately kept America's team from reaching the mountaintop again. And Bates, with his history, his belief in Jones's drive, he's betting firmly on the first one. He thinks Jerry finds a way. He will win again. That's his conviction.
He really believes it. But then Bates throws out that killer hypothetical. What if the Cowboys do finally win another Super Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
But it happens after Jerry has truly stepped back, after he empowered someone like McClay to really run the show.
Yeah. How would that actually feel to Jerry, deep down? Would it be the ultimate victory? I built this whole thing. I put the right people in place. We did it. Or would it sting? Would it feel like confirmation that maybe he was the obstacle all along? That the final success came only when he loosened his grip on the part he controlled so tightly?
Oof. That's rough to even think about. This guy pours everything into the team, builds this global phenomenon, desperately wants that ring, and the very way he operates might be the thing preventing it.
Yeah.
That's the potential tragedy Bates kind of hints at, isn't it? The complexity of his legacy is just immense. It's still being written.
Absolutely. Jerry Jones is just endlessly fascinating, isn't he? A total contradiction.
For sure. Business genius, master showman, built an empire, but always that debate about the football side, the hands-on control. People love to argue about him.
And Daniel Bates gives us this powerful alternative story, rooted in that deep gratitude, focusing on the business revolution, the loyalty, the hidden human impact. His view is clear. Jerry's the architect, the essential force, and he will get another ring, period. That's Bates's belief.
But that core question mark, the tension that makes the Cowboy story so compelling,
Yeah.
it's still there, isn't it?
Absolutely. Can he adapt? Can he let go? Or will the legacy be defined by what could have been during this long drought under his watch? It's definitely not over yet.
No way. This story will keep people talking, arguing, passionately debating for years. It's that mix of business, ego, loyalty, frustration, and hope that makes sports so damn interesting.
So, thinking about Bates's unique view, the save my life loyalty, the belief in Jones the architect versus the standard criticism about control being the obstacle,
Hmm.
what do you think ultimately defines Jerry Jones, the savior or the roadblock? It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Bates's personal story just reminds you there's always more going on behind the headlines, behind the billions, human connections, impacts we don't see. It's not just wins and losses. Time will tell, I guess. But the saga of Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, viewed through all these different lenses, it's one hell of a story.
This episode is powered by NeonKore Media for stories they said were too real to tell.
So, as we watch the Cowboys chase that elusive ring, ask yourself, is Jerry Jones truly building their future? Or is he wrestling with a ghost from his past, trapped in a game he's already won everywhere but the scoreboard? Only time will tell if the ultimate victory for America's team will be one he truly feels is his own.